Please settle down, everybody. Merci beaucoup. Good afternoon, family and friends. What an amazing turnout here at Newlands Cricket Ground. One of the favorite places for our great friend, Denys Lawrence Hobson. Hobbers, as we all knew him. And he would be delighted to see so many of his friends, so many of the cricketers that played with him throughout his club career here, his provincial career, and what a cricketer he was, and what a lovely person he was. You know, the statistics tell one story, but those are easily looked up on Google, and you will find it all there. But he did play 105 first-class matches, and he took 374 wickets at an average of just over 27, which is remarkable for a spin bowler. But he was definitely the greatest leg spinner I think that this country has ever produced, although his brother Larry, who's here today all the way from England, might dispute that, because he too played 61 first-class matches, took 180 first-class wickets, playing mostly for Eastern Province, which is the area, of course, they come from. But I know that Hobbers was so in love with this cricket ground, and rightly so, because if you came to play Currie Cup cricket here against Western Province, in those good old days, we used to play Friday, Saturday, and Monday. And you came and practiced for the whole afternoon on the Thursday in order to try and get yourself acquainted to what you were going to face with out in the middle, particularly on the final day. And Bunter Barlow and those captains that came after him, they knew that they could set you the most ridiculous targets on the final day, and Hobbers would do the job. So when you came to play Western Province, you prayed that you won the toss and could bat first. Otherwise, it was tickety-boo. This is where he got them. This is why he loved this place so much, and why we loved him. Because not only was he a great cricketer, but he was also a great guy. And as I say, the stats tell one story, but there's so many here who know him just as Hobbers. And that's why there are so many that have come today to celebrate his life. Most of us know what he had to go through in the last few years, and how his beloved wife Mary has stood by him through all the troubles of his illnesses. And now we have gathered all the people, and we've got some of the family that are going to be up here now to come and say a few words about the great man. And so I invite Ray and Larry, his brothers, to come up, and also the three daughters, Karen and Nicola, and the son, Stephen. The two daughters and a son. Sorry, Stephen. And before we actually hear from them, we are going to listen to a song that has been recorded and sent from New Zealand, where Stephen lives. Stephen's daughter, Jamie, has decided to sing this little song as a tribute to her grandpa.
You say when it starts and it's breaking my heart, you baby, I'm breathing. Take a look here. You make all these friends out there with all the mistakes you found out there. You make me so to get back, just a place. You make me so eyes remember you like a child. You never see can't do it. And it's breaking my heart in two. 'Cause I never see you sad boy. Don't be a bad boy. And you take good care. I'll be my girl. There's friends out there. Just remember beware. It's all to get back, just a promise. Always remember you like a child boy. To get by, just a promise. Always remember you like a child boy. You say you want to start something.
Jamie, granddaughter, and she's just 10 years old. Absolutely beautiful. and sadly couldn't be here, but sent it for us to play it out. So a wonderful gesture, got a little voice, and Father Steve is here, and I'm sure you're very proud of her. And so would Mary be. So I'd like to call up the family, Ray, Hobbers' son, and Larry. Hobbers' son, Hobbers' brother, and Larry, and Stephen, and Karen, and Nicola. We're going to start with Ray here, and he's going to say a few words.
Just talking, okay. Thanks, Quiggy, for those very kind words. Yeah, difficult to emulate anything. But first of all, that little song from Jamie, I didn't know Denys to have so many talents. To even leave a musical child behind. I think that's the best of all. Thank you very much. Stephen and family are down there. We think of you too, eh? That was wonderful. Thank you very much. I think Den would appreciate that. To all, I can only call you friends, family. There are associates, but I think everybody rather is a friend of Denys. There has been a friend, and a true friend he's been. I have had the privilege of growing up as a brother to him, not a lot younger, but a lot not as wise. That's for certain. I'm going to take us back to my first memories of Denys and the few things that we got up to as children that perhaps crafted Denys's life and certainly crafted my life with gratitude towards what Denys and I could do together. So please excuse me if I even have the audacity to link myself to my brother Denys. But we did get up to shit for those that don't understand us. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. We were dealt with in the honorable way, with mother reporting us to dad, and that was trouble. But we got over it all. But where we want to start, with my brother Denys. His love for farming, his love for genetics, and then later his love for cricket and any ball games. We started as little juniors at Little Mount School, from sub A to standard 5, English, Afrikaans, barefoot or privileged children, all in one classroom. So education had to take place at home a lot of the time, one teacher. Denys, with his business acumen developing at such an early age, he devised a thing called Stonebok. He and I farmed with stones. And being the businessman in the making, he obviously had the better stones than mine. He was the one who classed them and qualified them as stud or cull. So little brother with all the culls had to buy from big brother with the studs, with my pocket money. But, I did it lovingly because he was teaching me something. How it was going to materialize in life, I don't know. But the love for breeding started there. We developed guinea pig farming, stud farming, mind you, from boarding school. I remember a specific day, he was a prefect and I was a fresher and a 2 or 3 with guinea pigs in my locker. They were his and mine, but of course I'm in my locker. He got wind that there was going to be a lock inspection after supper. So he very kindly came to his younger brother, who was very homesick. He said, "Buddy, you're going to have to share now. You're going to gutsake and you go out and you take those guinea pigs out and you run across the street and put them into Oats's garden. The Oats was a day boy who stayed very close by. So our guinea pig enterprise started there. We brought them home, much to the disgust of my father. He gave us no support. Why? I don't know. But Denys, with the tenacity that he had, we had from these motley guinea pigs the idea between the two of us to breed them white. So the start of his understanding of genetics started from early age. And, nowadays they use guinea pigs as trials for anything. When we tried them, he tried them. He had the commitment to travel 26 miles on a bicycle to fetch a white male from our cousins who had bred this fantastic male that was going to be the foundation of Denys and Ray's guinea pig stud enterprise. But that just showed his tenacity. With our dad's willingness to support us, he was teaching us a lesson. If you want it, you're going to work for it. Right down to carrying on in life, breeding goats together, having a lot of fun. But in all the time, Denys was a mastermind of many plans. He was brilliant in whatever he did. Even if I'm going to say it as a brother, I ended up doing a lot of the management work below him, which I loved doing, because I knew where Denys touched, where he thought, it all materialized in a positive way. We went through a lot of things together. In the time of trouble, who should stand by but our brother in the Cape? He got back to the family where he had said openly, you would never want to farm in the Karoo. There's no water here. But he's going to farm. Well, he ended up with his own enterprise at Caledon with lots of water. But that's what he did with his tenacity. We can go on, but of the more memorable things was the times that Perky has referred to coming to Newlands. I was a junior at Stellenbosch. Denys and Andre Parker were the seniors. Jan Rupert was even playing in our first team. Bossy Clark was here, and many others. But when Denys was originally picked, I'm going to go back, sorry, I'm a little bit disjointed here, but when Denys was picked to play for Eastern Province, he was a 19-year-older, 19 and a couple of months, 19 and 3 months old. He was picked straight from boarding, straight from school, played SS schools, got a call to come and represent EP in the Currie Cup in Port Elizabeth. In the days of Graham Pollock and Wilkins and those non-professional cricketers. They dumped him in a hotel in PE. He saw the team, he met the team on the morning of the game against Transvaal. That is this youngster who was treated like that. But he didn't get him down. He was set the third man for the day. When I think Bacha was on 40 and Irvin was on 80 or vice versa, Denys gets a call. Hey, youngster, come show them what you can do. What an introduction to leg spin bowling in the big league. I think history talks for itself. He stood the test of time. And when he came here to the Western Cape, AC Parker, who was a writer of note for the Argus, he conned Denys the handicap of Newlands, just in his walk and his posture, but also for his entertainment level at all the times at Newlands. His batting powers were not all that known, but he could hit a long ball, especially if he pitched it up. But Big Vince picked us up, and he decided, look, Denys has got an answer for everything. We know that. But now he's not going to answer me. And there is a beautiful photograph of Denys lying parallel to the popping crease with the ball flying at head high and Vince just sort of glaring down. Well, that wasn't Denys's batting prowess. He could hit the sixes, he could entertain the crowd. But when he got into the quicks, Denys was quick to get out there. He did not like it. Anyway, thank you folks for being here. What a wonderful turnout of such wonderful people. I can speak on behalf of the family. Everybody, we're grateful everybody's here to celebrate. And I really do. We celebrate a man that we loved. He was great to work with. I think many people will vouch for that. But he was such a family man. The side that not many people knew. You knew Denys as a tough nut. But his loving family, they got to know his love in his latter years. We experienced it. It was wonderful to see the softness of Denys coming out. It was inborn. He came from a mother that was a soft person, but a Trojan on a tennis court. I must tell the story. Mom was a provincial tennis player, so we had a tennis court built on the family farm. Dad was a cricket lover, a second leaguer, but he wanted his son to be a good cricketer. So a cricket net was built. So many hours of practice was put in between the tennis and the cricket. Unfortunately, Denys was so competitive. Against his elder brother, there were many a game played. But Denys decided to do the McEnroe, or nowadays the Medvedev, and break the spoon that feeds him. So the Max Ply rackets got cracked, and we as a family had to all buy our own sports kit from there on. But Denys never let up. When he got to metal rackets, he couldn't do the same. But he still kept playing, and he was wonderful. We will remember Denys, his tenacity, forever and a day. He's an example. The people he has helped, and they are numerous. We're not going to mention names. Denys was not one for that. But we just thank all the people being here, listening to a few little stories that I might have told. The families did say they enjoyed some of those kindergarten stories. We won't go into the fishing at Kenton. When the fish bite at Kenton, Denys and I were good bloody gillies. But shit, when they were biting, we were no gilly at all. I'm going to hand over to Perky, who will call up Larry, and thank you for listening to me. And Godspeed to everybody when we finish the celebration, that we all have safe travels in the future. Thank you very much.
Well done, Ray. And now, all the way from Ascot in England, a fellow leg spinner, as I said, and a wonderful chap too, Larry Hobson.
Thank you, Trevor. So not used to the mic yet. It's great to see so many people. I think I got more of a chance of bowling some of you out looking at you rather than I used to when we were young. So, yeah, we have great memories of my brother. I'm going to keep my speech much like my bowling, short and sweet. We've got, the memories. There's such great memories, and he was such a great example to me as the very youngest brother. And a lot of my life has been shaped by what he actually did. So I remember him practicing his bowling through the winter, and the people from Grey used to come and play rugby, and they've actually mentioned they went to go and they played cricket together and against each other through the age groups. They went to go and visit Hobbers, and they found him bowling in the nets on the morning of the rugby match. So he was practicing through the winter, but there was a goal. And the goal was to make the SA schools team that was meant to go on an international tour in 1970. He had just converted from being a wicketkeeper at 15 to bowling leg spin. So he really, when he put his mind to something, he really just went for it. And that's how he did his whole life. He was a pioneer in everything he did, not just from the cricket, in his accounting career, in his business career, in his farming. He really put himself out there and really worked hard. So to me, that was a great example. He helped me change from being an off spinner to becoming a leg spinner later. I finally become wise because now I'm playing cricket at my old age as a 60-year-old, back as an off spinner again. It's just much easier. But that was Denys. He found something hard to do, and he became an expert at it, and he did that through his whole life. And then just the last 4 years while he's been ill, it's just been amazing because we have been having a weekly WhatsApp brothers call, and it's really brought us all much closer. You know, correspondence before that was less regular, so that's been we've really appreciated that time with him. And I just want to say to his family how they've supported him, how Mary has stood by him through thick and thin, has been absolutely amazing. And thank you for all you've done with them to them. So some of the early memories as well were spent right here at Newlands. As a teenager, sitting in the snake pit, watching the games which Trevor has described and been part of those. I remember a castle cost 50 cents, and if you wanted to be fancy and drink a premium brand, you'd buy an Amstel for 55 cents. I'm sure we wish that those were still around. But we were naughty teenagers. So I just want to pay credit to Denys for the positive influence he's had on my life, and he's been an example all the time, a guide and a mentor, and I really do appreciate everything he's done for us and our family, and we really will miss him greatly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Larry, and a safe journey home back to Ascot in England. And now his one and only son, who is all the way from New Zealand. No, the young one is also. But I'm now calling on Stephen to come up and say a few words.
Hi everyone, good to see such a good turnout at Newlands. I'm not gonna. I'll just tell a couple of stories about my childhood. Like growing up, I felt like the luckiest kid in the world, being able to come with my dad to Newlands every time we played a home game. And I would, the guys mentioned him feeling a third man. I used to walk around the boundary and he used to give me a Wrigley's chewing gum around the boundary. So I remember feeling like a special kid when all the other children on the other side, the advertising boards, and I was allowed inside the rope. And then after the games, but during the game, I'll be playing all the players' kits inside the change rooms. I remember getting bought ice creams and drinks from all the players. And then after the game, I remember one specific match up in the long room. My dad was there with his full whites. In those days, it was obviously very different to now, where the members was men only, so no girls were allowed. I remember me hanging on my dad's leg, wearing his full whites, and he was drinking red wine with the members in the long room. And the security guard downstairs came upstairs and said, "Denys Hobson, you're fries of the..." I've forgotten the word for telephone in Afrikaans. I'm 16 years away from South Africa. But there was a call box, the ticket box downstairs, the bottom of the stairs. And my mom was phoning to ask my dad when you're bringing me home. Anyway, then you'd say to the security guy, "Tell her I'm just finishing my drink and I'll be home." And then again, it would happen, and again, eventually my mom would turn up, and then we could hear her downstairs, and the security guard would come up, and my dad brought me dance, and my mom would drive me home. And he would drive himself home later in the night. Not much of that was the day before the rest day, or that was after that one. It's yeah, amazing how times have changed. You know, other thing I suppose having girls in the clubhouse now has obviously changed compared to what was there, and seeing all the Protea ladies warming up today, obviously ahead of their match tomorrow, is also another big change. So yeah, I know he loved watching cricket, like in his later years where he was sitting on the couch watching sport all day. You mentioned how impressed he was with the skill level of the females, and he's just a cricket lover. Let's grab it, water. So, that's talking about things that have changed over time, but the specific things that haven't changed, specifically around the values that he tried to instill in us as kids, were always doing the right thing. Always, being disciplined and working hard and deciding if you want something, you need to work hard for it and go out and put in the effort. I suppose that was explained by Larry about having the nets and bowling the whole way through winter. And whenever he used to chat to young cricketers, I'd always say to him, he'd say to them, first thing he'd say to the leg spinners, he'd say, "How many hours a day do you bowl?" And they'll say, "Oh, I bowl 2 hours twice a week." And he'd say, "Well, you need to bowl 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, to get better," which would obviously shock them. But yeah, he was very disciplined and put in all the work, in order to succeed. So yeah, I think the other side of it is, I think he was brought up in a very authoritarian, disciplined family. Like his dad was pretty hard on him, and sort of instilled those character traits of discipline and working hard, which I think he appreciated. But he was a bit of a rebel, and he liked to fight and do things differently. So whether it's being very casual and dressing down and not wearing a tie for any formal occasions, or doing things his own way. Another story I remember, so that was the story about him being hard and tough, and he always liked to come across as being tough and really disciplined and hard, but he had such a softer side. Like often, just seeing how he chats to my sisters, or even, when I had a tough time or missed out on selection or something, he always was very soft, and he liked to come across as tough, but he definitely had a very softer side. Other main thing was how humble he was. He hated getting praise and any credit for anything. He'd always deflect any praise he got. Like I remember so many times coming to Newlands with him here, after he retired, and strangers would come up to him and chat to him and talk to him about, remembering days from the past. And he always felt very, as a child, I always remember seeing him uncomfortable and awkward receiving praise, which is something it was strange to see. But just I suppose his humble, he almost felt uncomfortable taking the credit. But yeah, the one thing I suppose, growing up as a cricketer, was learning to play spin. I remember going to the nets in Claremont and him bowling to me on the synthetic wickets, concrete wickets, which meant every time he bowled a googly, it would hit me in the chest, with extra bounce, and he would always say to me, "You need to be positive and do something different. You can't." He said he'll get you out if you just stand there and block. So he was always trying to be positive and aggressive the way he played. Obviously, the way he batted was similar. But I think that was, the way he had a way of wanting to do things differently, and I think that's what he sort of trying to instill in all his kids. For me, he was always encouraging, and even though he didn't say as many words, just by his actions, and we learned a lot from his example, and I think that's the we learned the most from him, the way he did things, and the way he treated people, and the way I noticed how he treated strangers. Yeah. So those are the things that's, I think we all as a family have heard my dad after a few bottles of wine, we used to talk about him getting into lecture mode. He used to sit there and tell us the way things are and the way things should be. But yeah, like actually seeing how he behaves in public with other people and how many people came to him for advice, and that was amazing, and how many people came and thanked him and appreciated the help that he's given them over the years. And that's one thing that'll stay with me, and trying to aspire to the way he behaved and the way he helps people. So yeah, that's probably all I've got right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve, who I might tell you was summoned when Hobbers was not at all well, and he flew all the way from Pakistan, where he was playing in a World Over 40s tournament, and he was playing for the rest of the world, having played for New Zealand just last year, I think, against Australia. So Hobbers taught him a lot, obviously, in terms of playing the game of cricket. And it was wonderful that Steve arrived just in time, as it were, and before Hobbers passed, and then had to go back to Pakistan to continue with the tournament, and has just come once again from there to be here today. So wonderful to see you. No, I didn't really want to bring it up, but Steve did. Hobbers was a thirsty chap, and there's no doubt about it. And on the first occasion that I played Currie Cup game against him here at Newlands, as was the habit in those days and a wonderful tradition, that the team that had spent the day in the field, they stayed in their dressing room, and the batting side went through and had a few lemonades with them. And we'd been batting, and in the hot summer sun and wind, the Western Province had been in the field. And when we walked through into the dressing room, I saw Hobbers with a glass of red wine in his hand and the bottle next to him. And I said, but Hobbers, surely you had one or two beers before, just to quench the thirst. He said, no way, Squirky. I'll quench my thirst quite satisfactorily with this bottle of the wonderful grape juice. And boy, did he enjoy it. We go on to his daughter, Karen, if you would like to come up and say a few words.
Hi everyone. So I was with Dad in his bed when Stephen phoned to decide whether he's going to come out or not, and he said, "No, don't come back for your joy, father." So he was, he still had a sense of humor right at the end, and his amazing carer, Vanessa, said to him on the Thursday before he died on the Friday, she said, Denys, I'm gonna say a little prayer for you. And he mumbled with hearing of his top teeth in. And he mumbled, he says, "Moenie te hard bid nie, andersins gaan ek vlek." So it was he was making light of all these, the heaviness that we were all about to experience. So I'm going to read a letter that I've written to him. Dear Dad and Gramps, we will miss so many things about you. Your stews at the farm, bucky rides, growing up in the shearing shed, and falling into the big bales of mohair. We'll miss you arriving at our front door with a freezing baby bookie for us to warm up and resuscitate. We will miss you calling us Rat and Pops, and calling Steve and I Manaki and Bayfie. We will miss your peace when you stood staring at your goats grazing. You said that was your most peaceful thing to do in life, to sit and watch your animals grazing in silence. It's become part of how we cope with the stress of life too, Dad. Thank you. We know you didn't understand my love for growing in flowers and soil. I missed your laugh when you told me that's farming rule number 1, my girl, when we left the gate open and the rams ate 400 of my ready-to-harvest sunflowers. I miss the weekends you and I spent on the farm, just the two of us, solving the world's problems, trying to understand why there were snobs and thieves in the world, and what was the purpose of them. How to handle people who valued money over integrity and values. Those questions will remain unanswered. We will miss your loyalty. How when someone came to you, you never refused to help. To this day, we have new stories coming to light of how you helped so many people. You valued loyalty and honesty, hard work. You taught us resilience. And it was not always easy, still not. And I can hear you saying, that's farming, my girl. I think one of your worst fears was that your children would turn out to be spoiled brats. So I hope we've made you proud, because we're proud of you, and I hope you hear it. You didn't need to keep on keeping on. Time to rest, old Gramps, to forever rest, and know that you are loved and cherished, and we're so proud of you and what you taught us. So when the wheat has been harvested and the goats are eating on the stubble, and the helichrysum is starting to flower, and the river reeds start getting their golden seed heads, we'll look up at the sky, at the call of the fish eagle, and think of you, Dad. Gramps.
Thank you, Karen. You know, we've talked so much today about Hobbers and his wonderful cricket ability, and indeed it was significant. But we sometimes forget, because of the impression he made on all of us as a great cricketer, that, and that's without playing for South Africa in an official test match, and only 4 unofficial test matches, because he just never had the opportunity because of our isolation through the apartheid years. So as great a cricketer as he was, he never had those opportunities. But we forget that he was an educated man. He was a qualified chartered accountant, and that gave him, I suppose, the background to a very successful business career. And just the other day, he was awarded a very special award for his contribution to the mohair industry. And there's a lovely photograph of him receiving that award with Mary, and I think you all would realize just how much that was deserved as a man who made this huge contribution to the mohair industry. And I'd like now to call on Nicola, who I tell you has had so much to do and has worked so hard to put this day together. She's been helped everywhere by all sorts of family members and so on, but she's been the driving force. And thank you, Nicola, for bringing us all together like this to celebrate the life of Hobbers.
Growing up, I had 2 pervading strong memories linked to my dad. The one is that of the background sounds of cricket, whether it was from the sides of a field or lying on the playroom couch on a Sunday, a sound that still soothes me today. The other is the smell of goat poo. Driving to school in my dad's messy, goat-smelling bakkie with the window down in winter so he could smoke his Chesterfields, I would beg him to drop me around the corner of Herschel school gates to hide my embarrassment. But my dad, with an unhealthy level of distaste for my school, relinquished in the glory of reminding all the Lahanis that he was a loud and proud goat farmer. The sound and the smells, one soothing, one a stench. That was the polarity of my dad. He could be both things at one time. He epitomized Hobson's choice, a take-it-or-leave-it attitude, a stubbornness born out of his convictions, but he was also so gentle, so soft and emotional. Deciding not to go to his beloved Kingswood and staying in Cape Town to go to Herschel, I felt like I had disappointed him. Going from his nickname, my Katie, to my Herschel snob, I felt I'd become the black goat of the family. But even amidst his contempt for Herschel, when I asked him to play in the dad-daughter hockey game, he was there, all kitted out as a goalie. He committed so hard that he tore his hamstring trying to save a goal. The inner competitive Hobbers coming out even at an under-13 girls hockey match. The competitive side I inherited, with my friends not even wanting to play a friendly round of 30 seconds with me. My dad had a lot of loud, controversial opinions. Whenever he would start on a tangent, I would go, shh, in fear that dad would be cancelled in this culture. Thank God he never had a smartphone. My kids still think his Nokia 3310 is an old TV remote. As I grew outside of school, I realized my dad had a very quiet wisdom. Sometimes what you think is a passing conversation, he would deliver one of his golden checks, and it became a conversation that activates your path in the world, a rooted core memory. This is what my dad did for me. I came to him to propose nervously that I wanted to start my own business. I was 26. He had no trepidation, no fear, no concerns that maybe I should study further or gain more experience. He said, if this is what you love doing, don't waste any more time or my money. Just get on with it. His confidence, not mine, propelled me into my future. He always had blind confidence in me. He never knew my specific grades in certain subjects. He never micromanaged my progress. He believed in passion, resilience, and fire, and he felt if I had that, nothing else mattered to him nor me. He pushed me into pressure, and pressure is a gift because it's transformative. If I'd been cushioned, I wouldn't be the person I am now. My greatest connector with my dad in the later years was talking about my business. He didn't understand it, nor wanting to understand the details of design, architecture, or property, but he'd like to know how it was going and how busy we were. He hated games, he hated bullshitters. My dad loved his swear words, but he gave freely his loyalty and trust, sometimes getting singed in the fire. He expelled knowledge like a giving tree. He loved to encourage and mentor. That was his soul and joy. He was a man of few words, but as soon as you gave him a nudge, he became alive talking of past cricketing and farming stories. My dad also had an allergy to dressing smartly, a battle my mom gave up trying to win decades ago. He wanted the lowest maintenance life possible. I remember on my wedding day, he arrived to fetch me wearing his now iconic, dirty, worn-out Cape Mohead peak cap. I said, Dad, you're not going to wear that, are you? Which he said, no, Rat, of course not. Only to just shove it down the back of his pants whilst walking me down the aisle. When my dad was diagnosed, so began the long road of my mom's care for him. His stubbornness went into overdrive, and it wasn't easy, but my mom kept hucking him to take his pills, to do his exercises, becoming more than a wife, but a PA, a chauffeur, a nurse, a motivator. Mom, if it wasn't for you, we would have lost Dad years ago. The grandkids also kept him on life support. Something my mom told me recently was that when we had our newborn Jack in the NICU for 2 months after his heart surgery, my dad at the time, who was also in ICU, about to go into palliative care, said to her, if this little Jack can fight for his life at his age, then so can I. And we got 5 more years with him. I believe he wanted to stay with us to see all his grandkids, including and Ash's little Sienna too. Even the morning of his death, when my girls came into the room with flowers, he chirped, hello girls. And when Jack started singing Angel on a Tree, Dad begged him to stop, as he has his mother's tone. His mind was sharp till the very end. His stubbornness prevailed. He reached over to feel Stephen's bald head and instantly relaxed. The golden sun was there. We were all there. We sent him off playing Red, Red Wine by Neil Diamond. Drinking red wine out of his favorite plastic wine glass. There was no better way. We would all be so lucky. I will always have my dad's handbook of life and the chapters I knew and the memories I have. And as my 6-year-old daughter Sammy said to me the morning after he left us, Grant is in heaven, and you know, Mom, heaven's in your heart. Love you, Dad.
Thank you, Nicola. And, we all have lived with Hobbers and all the problems he had, and how hard it was for the family, in particular for poor Mary, who had to look after him. But I remember when he first left the Kingsbury Hospital and had decided he'd had enough. And when we went to visit him in bed at home, it was very difficult to persuade him one more go. And Andre Brains, who's also departed some 2.5 years ago, is a great friend of his, and they played together, and Andre, of course, captained Western Province. And he's the one man, unlike Eddie Barlow, who would always play Hobbers at the Wanderers, because not only could he turn it on anything, but he got bounce, which was one of the great secrets of his bowling. And eventually, with Mary's support, we persuaded him. Mike Fullard was there, great friend of his, and to go and see Dr. Laporte, who had saved Andre Brains' leg. And the change was unbelievable, that within 3 weeks, Hobbers was on the phone and saying to us, when are you coming down to the house to have a drink with me? And it gave him an extra good 3 years, at least. And there were times that we all remember so especially, and we were given that extra time with him. And what we loved to do was to take him out to lunch at his beloved Claremont Cricket Club, which is where we could fetch him from home. And there was a quick ride to there. And when he got tired, it was easy to go back and drop him off and then go back and continue the long lunches that we always enjoy. But he was so special. And every now and again, Mary would phone Mike, Stewie Robertson, myself, and insist that we came down to visit Hobbers at home, and she cooked the most wonderful lunches for us. So those cherished times, we sadly now know will not be anymore. But it's great to see so many of his cricketing friends here, so many of his friends, famous names, too many to single out, and so many of his alma mater's friends. He spent a lifetime seemingly at that club, and right to the end, he loved to be associated with alma mater's, now of course Rondebosch Cricket Club. And if any of you have memories that you want to share with the family, there are 2 special books here for you to leave a little message and to reminisce, to tell your stories, and to pay tribute to him in your own way. And I'm sure that at this lovely ground on a lovely day, we will all remember Hobbers, our great friend. And I'm sure that not many of you will leave too soon. There's lots of wine, as you see, and it's all there for you to enjoy. And if you'd like a beer or soft drink of any kind, all you have to do is go and ask at the bar. Anything a little stronger than a beer, you might have to pay a few bob yourself. But let's enjoy this day, because that's what he would have wanted, a celebration of his life. And for him, yes, he wanted it to be a happy, sad day. Thank you all for coming.